morning, friends and enemies. It is Monday, noon, 12:30 Eastern time. As always, we will be going game by game, recapping everything that happened in yesterday's fantasy football slate, starting on Thursday Night Football with the Ravens and the Dolphins. In these videos, we talk about everything fantasy relevant from the weekend, but also looking forward. We talk about injuries and snap counts and routes run and all the shit that you never want to do the research on. Uncle Nicholas is here to make sure that you just don't, all right? Because that's my job, and that's why they pay me the big bucks to be wrong about a lot of things. What I wasn't wrong on this year was that Tua stinks. 28-6, Baltimore Ravens in favor. Biggest storyline for each team. For Baltimore, they got Lamar Jackson back, looked as good as ever, 18 for 23, 4 touchdowns through the air, 2 to Mark Andrews. No one really got it going because no one had to get it going. Derrick Henry, 120 on the ground, somehow did not score a touchdown. Sorry if you hear sirens in the background. Now that it is kind of winter, they don't allow us in my apartment building to turn air conditioning on. It's only heat, and I'm someone that kind of runs hot, so I like to put the air conditioning on. And now because I can't, I have to open the windows, and now when I open the windows, you guys hear sounds from the outside. So just push through it. Just fight through it like Lamar Jackson did with his hamstring strain. Great to have him back, all right? On the flip side, not much to talk about for Miami. The firing of the GM, Chris Greer, happened over the last few days. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what that means. If you ask any Miami fan, they're ecstatic about it. But like anytime a team is bad, it just feels like any change gets the fan base really, really excited, right? Like if Tua was benched, or if Mike McDaniel was fired, or if the GM was fired, the president was fired, the owner sold the team, it's like, oh, that's the guy we had to blame. The offense coordinator, that's the guy we have to blame. It's like, unless you're really behind the scenes, you never actually know. Listen, I'll take the Dolphins fans' words for it. They seem to hate that man and are really excited that he is no longer the GM. So positive, I guess. I don't know what that means for the actual team before the trade deadline. Now, tomorrow is the trade deadline for the NFL. I believe it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Everything will be locked up. The Dolphins already made a move, sending Jalen Phillips over to the Eagles for a third-round pick, which does obviously indicate that they are sellers. They're 2-7. They're not really competing for anything this year. I would be amazingly shocked if Achane or Jalen Waddle got moved, and those are the only real players that we care about for fantasy. So if that happens, we will make a new video about it tomorrow. Also, just a heads up, if you are someone that tunes into my waiver wire videos every Tuesday, very likely going to have that one go out late tomorrow. I'm probably going to wait for the trade deadline to come and go because I don't want to make the video at like 10 a.m. and then 4 trades happen that matter that change the waiver wire. So I will probably wait until 4 p.m. Eastern time hits, then film the video, have it out around 5 or 6 or however quickly our editor can get that sheesh turned around. So just letting y'all know ahead of time. Bears-Bengals, the most outrageous game of all time. Bears win 47-42. 31 points scored in the fourth quarter. Onside kicks recovered, last-second touchdowns, last-minute touchdowns. Didn't matter. The Bengals are proven to have, like, they were the woke defense last year and then somehow became, like, significantly worse this year. They are horrendous. They have one bright spot on their defense, and it is DJ Turner, their cornerback, who has played phenomenal defense, and it's a lot of the reason that Rome Odunze struggled in this one. Bears takeaways. Caleb, massive game, 283 through the air, also added 53 on the ground. Kyle Monangai, huge game, 26 for 176 on the ground, did not get into the end zone, 3 for 22 through the air. DeAndre Swift missed this game with the groin injury, which he's been dealing with on and off for the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Ben Johnson came out and said it's like a chronic thing. He's probably going to have to deal with it for a while. We might want to give him a week off to rest. They did that in this one. I have no idea if he's going to suit up for next week. I'm going to assume that when your backup has a game like this, you probably want to get back onto the field. So we'll have to wait on practice reports. I'd love to say that this was like a huge breakout for Monangai or Colson Loveland, or I feel that, better said, I feel like it's predictable, but like we can't do this. We can't look at games against the Bengals and act like they matter. Like from a fantasy perspective, every team goes nuclear against the Cincinnati Bengals. If you have any players on Cincinnati or attached to the game being played against Cincinnati, it is a blessing. It is a great, great, great feeling. It is a great thing to have in your fantasy lineup. So listen, I think Monangai had already forced like a 45-55 split with Swift. I will say in recent weeks it has gotten a little bit closer. It did feel like it was more to do with Swift being a little bit banged up. But when you go out and you average 7 yards per carry and you go for almost 200 yards from scrimmage, you solidified that role. Like it is very likely going to be a 1-2 punch for the remainder of the season, a 50-50 split. This is not really like the Rico Chuba split, in my opinion, because unlike Chuba, Swift has actually played really well this year. You know, everyone loved to cite like the EPA numbers. He's been one of the most explosive. If you've watched him play at all, he's ripping off 10+ yard runs every game, multiple per game. He's very good in the passing game. He's been a very, very important big part of this offense. There's no reason for them to just completely throw him, to the wolves like we saw the Panthers do with Chuba Hubbard. So going forward, let me pull up their schedule for the remainder of the next couple of weeks, at least the next month. Why did I take this off? All right. Chicago has the Giants next week, which is a great matchup. Again, we'll have to watch practice reports. We'll probably get a good feel for the health of Swift from reports from beat reporters and whatnot. I think they're both definitely playable going forward against the Giants. Once the tougher matchups come, though, it's going to become a lot more difficult to pick and choose between the two of them, because I do think Swift is probably the lead guy, but I'm sure that they will use some sort of like very, very harsh committee going forward. Loveland had a big game, 6 catches, 7 targets, 118 and 2 touchdowns through the air. Cole Kmet left this game, so there's a chance that he is now sidelined for a second. With Loveland, it's like, again, the I'd love to say it's the breakout, post-buy, bump, whatever. Everything kind of worked in perfect tandem here. One, Cole Kmet was out, which is basically the only reason he's not been breaking out, so he needed that to happen. Two, it's against the Bengals, and the Bengals have allowed, by far and away, the single most fantasy points to the tight end position on the year, and it's not even close. This was the team that the Steelers literally had like every tight end score a touchdown against them. So Loveland, good to see him have a really big game, big touchdown, but like that end touchdown at the end for 60 yards. Like the Bengals defense, legitimately, they don't want to cover and they don't want to tackle. That had nothing to do with Loveland. That was completely just like the worst defense of all time from the Bengals. So Loveland's going to be a guy that you probably want to roster, but I still don't have a ton of confidence in streaming him on a week-to-week basis. So for the most part for this game, as awesome as it was for the Bears, if you had them in your lineup, this is more like I lean far more towards the Bengals being terrible than this actually being something super meaningful for Chicago's offense. On the flip side, Flacco balls out. Chase Brown has another big game. T. Higgins got a little bit banged up at the end of the game, but from what I'm hearing, they do have their bye in week 10. So after that, he should be relatively fine. Jamar Chase, 6'4", 111. No other takeaways from that side for the fantasy perspective. Vikings and Lions. We have J.J. McCarthy returning for the Vikings, 143 through the air, but he did score 2 touchdowns. Also got in with his legs, 9 for 12 on the ground and a touchdown. Fully healthy, obviously. Huge win for the Vikings, giving the Lions their 3rd loss of the season. From a passing standpoint, obviously low volume, but Jefferson was able to get home with a nice 1-yard touchdown catch. Had 9 targets on just 25 attempts, so huge target share there. But it does, give a little bit of instability, I think, to most of these passing pieces in Minnesota. It's a game with 51 points scored, a lot of touchdowns scored for Minnesota. Detroit had a very banged-up secondary, so you would have liked to have seen them take a little bit more advantage of it, but didn't happen. So a little bit underwhelming outside of Jefferson scoring. The backfield, however, Aaron Jones was playing really well. 9 carries, 78 yards, 8.7 yards per carry, 2 for 20 through the air. And then he banged up his shoulder, which is reportedly supposed to be an AC. That, let me make sure this is not connecting to my headphones, which is the doctors that I follow are not overly worried about. He could take a shot and play through it next week when they play against the Baltimore Ravens. If he were to miss time, then Jordan Mason gets a little bit of a boost, but he's clearly been really ineffective over the last, month or so of the season. Detroit, Goff has an okay game. Gibbs had a down game. Nothing you could really do about that. Laporta had a monster game. No real fantasy takeaways from that side of things. Panthers and Packers. Let's clap it up. Everybody, take Everybody take a breath. Everybody simmer down. Everybody tuck your shirts in. Everybody clap it up. And you know who the fuck we're clapping it up for. The GOAT. Rico, 25, 130, 2, add in 2 for 11 through the air. This man's is the GOAT. This man's might be. If I wasn't a Falcons fan, I would have bought a Rico Dowdle jersey a month ago. For real, I would have done it. Bryce Young plays. He does what he has to do. He does what he has to do to get the win. 16-13. They're 5-4. They're 5-4 right now. Biggest fantasy takeaway, of course, is the fact that all week long we heard, okay, Dave Canales saying, you know, we probably got to give Rico a little bit more run. And man, did the Vegas lines really push that way by the end of the week? It was, I think Chuba was, I think his rushing line by the end of the week, Saturday, Sunday, was like 19.5 rushing yards. So if you followed the money, you knew that Rico was really in line for a big workload. And that was what we saw. I mean, 27 touches for Rico to 5 for Chuba Hubbard. So this felt like the game. It's like, okay, yeah, it's Rico's backfield going forward. He did, he was dealing with a little bit of like a groin / maybe hamstring / quad thigh thing throughout the game. He exited at one point. He went to the medical tent, and then he came back out, and then obviously played the remainder of the game, scored a touchdown or two after that, and looked fine. But I do think maybe it's something to just keep an eye on for the practice reports. But he did finish the game, and it wasn't one of those where like he finished the game but didn't get any touches and didn't look explosive. He looked perfectly fine. So if you got Rico, like I do, I think you probably have a very high-end RB2 for the remainder of the season, just based on the way that we just saw this backfield split up against a really tough, well, what was supposed to be a really tough Green Bay Packers run defense. Big news of this week, of course, is Tucker Kraft tears his ACL, will be out for the remainder of the season. One pickup that I implore y'all to make at this week's waiver wire would be Jaden Reed. He will probably be returning to the team within the next week, 2 weeks-ish, and he's obviously been a very good receiver in the limited time that he's been there, but I would definitely make that move. Romeo Doubs continues to operate as the 10 targets on 37 pass attempts, so big boost for Doubs. Christian Watson, only 4 targets, but 2 for 58, continues to be a piece in this passing game. Luke Musgrave will be the tight end 1 going forward there. I've never really been a fan of Luke Musgrave's game. To me, he's more like Mike Gesicki than he is a real all-around tight end. He's more of just like kind of an athlete that's a little bit goofy out there, to be honest with you. But there are much worse offenses to stream a tight end in right now. So Luke Musgrave will be on the waiver wire list, but I'm not going to spend overt amount of money on that man's because I just don't overly believe in him as a player. But the other pass catchers obviously see a boost with Tucker Kraft, but a massive downgrade to the offense overall for the Green Bay Packers. Actually, I want to say one other thing with this backfield. We have not jumped into the snap counts or anything, but it's pretty clear that the calf injury for Josh Jacobs is hurting him a little bit, and he was banged up a little bit in this game as well. If we go to the Week 9 snap counts for the backfield here, Jacobs, this has to be a season low. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head here, but only 50%, 57% of the snaps for him. Still dominated in rush attempts, still led in routes run and short down distance and goal line and all that kind of stuff. But Emmanuel Wilson up to 33%, Chris Brooks up to 17%. So this does feel like it's a little bit of a lightening of his workload on the carries due to the calf strain. Not a ton to take away from it, but Emmanuel Wilson should probably be held if you're looking to hold on to a handcuff. And this site, obviously, you guys, if you've been watching my streams for a while now, let me check the comments, just make sure nothing crazy is happening. Sometimes I don't check the comments like the whole video, and then you guys are like, oh, the volume's not working, shit like that. But looks like we're all right. Looks like we're all right. Okay. Yeah, looks like we're all right. FantasyLife.com has all the snaps, all the rush attempts, all the routes run, goal line carries, percentages, raw numbers, all that kind of stuff. It is the best single value for fantasy football that you can get right now. FantasyLife.com. Use code BDGE. Will get you 20% off any Fantasy Life Plus subscription on their website. You have that for a full year. So all the way into halfway through next season. If you go cop now, that'll be one of the first links in the description down below. FantasyLife.com. Moving over to the Chargers and the Titans. Biggest team takeaway here. Joe Alt is going to be lost again to the Los Angeles Chargers. They also had another offensive lineman. I can't remember his name, but he got hurt as well. And this led to 6 more sacks from the Tennessee Titans, who are not a 6-sack type of team. So Herbert's going to be under a shitload of pressure again. Moving forward, they play Pittsburgh, who just had by far and away their best defensive performance of the year. So something to be a little bit nervous about. From the pass catching side of things, Quentin Johnson finally had a touchdown in a good game. It came at the cost of Keenan Allen. So, it looks like Gadsden and McConkey are pretty much going to be the key pieces of this offense, with like Allen and Johnson kind of rotating back and forth. From the Titans side of things, nothing really to take away from a fantasy standpoint. Maybe something happens here in the trade deadline. Maybe they move Tony Pollard. Maybe Calvin Ridley gets moved, but nothing to really talk about for right now. Oh, backfield for the Chargers. Sorry, I can't believe I almost just skipped over that. But Kamani Vidal, after a massive game against the Vikings, he was lined up to be, an absolute blow-up spot against the terrible Tennessee Titans, who are again without their star D tackle Jeffrey Simmons. Just didn't happen. Kamani Vidal, 12 for 30 on the ground, didn't catch a single pass. Jared Patterson was active with Hassan Haskins on the IR now with the hamstring strain. He goes 9 for 44. He looks better. He runs better. I don't think that's necessarily a guaranteed, 50-50 split going forward. I think it's still going to be Kamani Vidal's backfield, in my opinion. But I think this does present the opportunity of them going with hot hand going forward instead, which wasn't really the case in the last week or two. But I still think next week when the Chargers take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I still think you could start Kamani Vidal as a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, just because of the offense. But the blows to the offensive line are obviously going to be a big problem for all the runners in this backfield. Next up, the Pats and the Falcons. From the Falcons standpoint, we lost more linemen again. Chris Lindstrom left this game. Our other guard left this game. So we might be down. We were already without Caleb McGarry for the year. We obviously let our center Drew Dahlman go to Chicago this offseason. So we are hurting at offensive line right now. And we are playing at Indianapolis next week. And by at Indianapolis, it's just an away game on the schedule, but it is in Germany. We are playing in Berlin, and I will actually be at that game. Your boy's going to Berlin. We going to knock down the Berlin Wall. I'll be there Friday to Monday, like I've already said in a few of these videos. I think we will be doing a fan meetup. If we have 5 German fans out there, hell yeah, we're going to be doing a fan meetup Saturday around somewhere between 4 and 6 p.m. So if you're a German and you don't hate me, put it on your calendar. Don't do shit during that time because I want to smooch from you, all right? I will let everybody know via posting on our brand Twitter and Instagram what bar we're going to be meeting up at, but we will be in Berlin for that game. And I just need the Falcons not to embarrass me. Just please, God. Penix and Drake London just went fucking nuclear in this one. 3 touchdowns to London, his true breakout game here, despite seeing a lot of Christian Gonzalez. Bijan still not really able to get it going through the ground game, but that is the Patriots' run defense has been elite. Probably the single best run defense in the NFL up to this point. So just keep that in mind when you were playing against the New England Patriots as a running back. On the New England side of things, they had a split backfield between Trayvon Henderson and Terrell Jennings, with Ramondre Stevenson out for this one. Drake May played well for the most part, did take 6 sacks, had an interception, fumbled twice, lost one of them. So shaky for sure, but they got the job done, as good teams end up doing, and bad teams don't get the job done. Looking at you, Atlanta. The backfield, obviously, with Ramondre out, we were expecting a big workload from Trayvon, and I think he got it. I don't know what more Trayvon Henderson owners could want to get out of him. He got 18 touches. Ramondre's dealing with what is believed to be a turf toe. Now, there's obviously different levels of severity to it. Maybe he comes back next week. I would probably bet against that. They play at Tampa Bay, which is a pretty tough run defense. Then they get the Jets, the Bengals, and the Giants. 3 beautiful matchups. So if he has to miss time, we've seen turf toes last for a long time. Brock Purdy had his turf toe and then re-injured it. So there's a chance Ramondre's sitting for a minute here, which would open up, the backfield to Trayvon Henderson and Terrell Jennings. When we look at the actual splits of the snaps here, down. In week 9, 75% of the snaps for Trayvon, 25 to Terrell Jennings. Rush attempts obviously were 14 to 11 in favor of Trayvon. Importantly, 28 routes to 4 for Travion, and that is obviously what's important here. 5-1 in terms of targets, short down and distance, long down and distance. You guys can see all the numbers here for yourself. Terrell Jennings did get the goal line carry here, so that could be a little bit problematic for Trayvon Henderson. He's probably going to be a guy that's going to have to score from, the 8-yard line out, the 10-yard line out, the 15-yard line out. And I think they have plays for that, but if he doesn't get it done on those plays, then he's probably not going to score a touchdown. But he does have a very high floor now in PPR leagues because of it. Another bad injury to New England. Kayshon Boutte left with a hamstring strain. Usually that's anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. If it's a minor grade hamstring injury, which will open up targets to Demario Douglas, who becomes a waiver wire pickup, Hunter Henry, and Stephon Diggs. 49ers and the Giants. From the 49ers side of things, it was Mac Jones, it was Christian McCaffrey, 28 for 106 and a touchdown on the ground, 5 for 67 and a touchdown through the air. So just dominating faces once again in fantasy. Don't think there was any really big fantasy takeaways here. The only thing we're trying to figure out still is Brock Purdy. Is he playing next week? It looked like he was close to playing. He was getting back to like a bunch of limited practices in a row. And then Shanahan came out after the game and said, Brock Purdy wasn't actually really that close to being active in this one, and this is something he's going to have to deal with all year. So that felt pretty fucking ominous. So I don't know the status of. I don't know the status of. I don't know the status of Brock Purdy right now. So with that, Jawan Jennings has continued to operate as a wide receiver 1, which is good. He's not making a ton of big plays, but he's looking healthier and getting back into shape. Ricky Pearsall has not practiced in like 6 weeks, which is also ominous. So, him and Ayuk, once they get back to practice, we could have a different discussion. But for now, it's the only discussion we could have. On the flip side, the real fantasy discussion here is Tyrone Tracy versus Devin Singletary. Similar to what backfield were we just talking about with that? Oh, Kamani Vidal and the Chargers. Like, it felt like Tracy was going to take over and dominate work in this backfield, and it just simply did not happen. Singletary outcarried him 8-5, looked a lot better on those carries. Tyrone Tracy 3 for 19 through the air. Devin Singlestain 2 through 8. Check out the snap counts here. Here's the thing with these. It's like one of the reasons why I got a lot of sit starts about Tyrone Tracy, and for the most part, he was a top 20 running back. But I also had a lot of players that I preferred starting over Tracy this week, and I felt like I leaned those ways in a lot of the questions. Because with these backup running backs, a lot of times what happens is like they go into the week with the unquestioned role as the starter. But like if 1 or 2 things break kind of wrong, the coach has no problem just riding the hot hand. And it's not like that's always going to happen, but that you do have to kind of factor that into the spectrum of like outcomes of, okay, Tracy, in a perfect world, yes, he's getting 20 touches and he's the workhorse. But if those first like 3 touches go for 5 yards and then they get Devin Singletary onto the field and then he runs for 12 yards or something, it's like, okay, there might be a hot hand, So you have to like kind of throw that into the factor of risk when you're starting a guy like Tracy, who's a backup. But overall, he still ran more routes. He still saw more targets, was playing on more of the long down and distance, playing in all the 2 and 4 minute drills. But yeah, it makes him a much riskier play just based on what we saw. And it's clear that they do trust Devin Singletary. Remember, Singletary played with Brian Daboll back in Buffalo. So they kind of know what they have here. Although we did see Tracy win out that job last year and dominate Singletary in touches. So I think it's going to be a mix and match back and forth. The Giants play the Chicago Bears in Chicago next week. I wouldn't be surprised if Tracy out-touched Devin Singletary like 14-8 next week. But yeah, it definitely presents a little bit of risk there. Steelers-Colts. This was like the Colts game that everybody was kind of waiting for to see a flop here from Daniel Jones. And he has it. He has 5 turnovers. To me, nothing really to take away from this side. Like, JT has a bad game, so what? Pierce and Pittman both get home. Josh Downs gets home. Tyler Warren had a bad game, whatever. Flip side, they win 27-20, the Steelers do. Rodgers, 203 and a touchdown. Jaylen Warren continues to operate as the workhorse. 16 carries. Kenneth Gainwell just 3. Caleb Johnson just 1. He did not have any running room, but he did get 2 goal line touchdowns, which was big kind of phase out of the passing game, unfortunately. Kenneth Gainwell took a lot of those snaps and a lot of that work. No real fantasy storylines here. DK Metcalf, a really bad game after having a couple good games, but that's the nature of fantasy. Not everybody is Justin Jefferson. Not everybody's Jamar Chase, where you're just going to have amazing weeks every single week, So Broncos Texans. Shit game for the most part. We have the Broncos escaping with an 18-15 win. Bo Nix 173 and 2 touchdowns through the air, 36 more on the ground. A lot more of J.K. Dobbins, 15 carries to Harvey's 2. So he continues to dominate the backfield work. Unfortunately, it's kind of crazy because in a Sean Payton offense, it's like they don't necessarily usually have like one pass catching back. It's just that their running backs, for the most part, just catch a lot of passes. Like a lot of his scheme is catered towards throwing to the running backs and just having targets regardless of who's on the field. So it's kind of been a surprise that Dobbins is just catching 0 passes. They obviously have a lot of plays written up for RJ Harvey. 5 targets, 5 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. So he's getting it done through the air. It's obviously adding almost nothing on the ground in a lot of games. Like there's a floor of basically 0. But they are, again, putting in a lot of plays specifically for him through the air. We saw that in this one. I heard a stat today. I think this is the first rookie running back to have 3 consecutive games of a receiving touchdown since like 1970. So Harvey's getting it done, but he definitely has a very low floor on a weekly basis, as do the Texans running backs. Unfortunately, it's just Chubb and Woody Marks just splitting work pretty much right down the middle. And it's like, sometimes they break off big plays and sometimes they score a touchdown and other times they do not. CJ Stroud suffered a concussion in this one. Could play next week. It's usually 50-50 with concussions. They play against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. So hopefully he is upright in this one. Otherwise, we're going to see Davis Mills, and it's not overly encouraging to have Davis Mills on the field. So it would be a little bit of a downgrade to Nico Collins and everyone behind Nico Collins, as we kind of said all throughout the wide receiver rankings and the waiver wire videos. Like once Nico Collins is back on the field, it's pretty much useless to try and pinpoint which of these receivers behind him, Xavier Hutchinson, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, I think played like 8 snaps in this one. Which one of them is worth rostering? They're pretty much, the answer is kind of none of them, especially if Davis Mills is under center. Jaguars, Raiders. Where do we start? Takeaway from the Jaguar side, I would say biggest takeaways here, they still look very clunky pre-snap. They have like no discipline. I don't know what they're doing in practice. Like, I just genuinely don't. Do they practice plays in practice? Like, what are they doing during the practice time? I don't get it. Parker Washington, 9 targets, 8 catches, 90 yards. Brian Thomas Jr., at the end of his long catch and run in the fourth quarter, 34 yards, he went down with what appeared to be a high ankle sprain. Ended up coming back in the game like 2 plays later, but then probably played about 5 snaps and then left again. So we have to wait on practice reports of it. Most people on Twitter, or at least people that saw an early glimpse of it, are suspecting it is a high ankle sprain, but we haven't had any definitive word on that, so we will have to see. And with him, you have De'Ami Brown, who also left this game with a concussion. We also obviously already have Brenton Strange out, who will have to miss at least 1 more week. So, like Parker Washington by default, obviously Travis Hunter's on IR. Parker Wash by default is going to be the number 1 here. I don't know that I want anyone else on this team, to be honest. For the Raiders, I mean, welcome back Brock Bowers, 3 touchdowns, 12 for 127, ridiculous game. Geno, 4 touchdowns. Genty ends up getting it done through the air there. Yeah, I don't know. No real takeaways here other than welcome back Brock Bowers, and he's, probably the tight end 1 going forward. Rams and the Saints. I mean, Tyler Shuck made his full first start debut, and it went as well as you would imagine a first start for a quarterback against the Los Angeles Rams elite defense would go. 176 and a touchdown, plus an interception. The Saints can get literally nothing going through their run game. They are down many offensive linemen at this point. I think they lost Cesar Ruiz. They lost a couple guys up to this point. So they're going to be really banged up on the offensive line, and they play at Carolina next week, who could take advantage and keep riding this hot streak here. So feels terrible owning any New Orleans running back. Rashid Shaheed showing good chemistry with Shuck, though. 5 for 68 through the air. Olave, 3 for 57. But I think this was like one of the worries with Tyler Shuck coming in. We didn't know who his favorite pass catchers are going to be. But then again, the Rams just dominated game script here. As you can see, they ran 75 plays in this one to just 39 for the Saints. So, if that number doubles where Shuck is throwing the ball 48 times, then, you could double all the pass catchers' stats, and then you're looking at a better game. But that's the problem with this Saints offense is this might happen where they just don't really control the ball much. We'll have to see what happens at the trade deadline. Kamara, very unlikely to move. Shaheed has been a hot name that they've been talking about, so he might be on the move to like a Buffalo Bills or something like that, but we will see. For the Rams, Stafford continues to play legitimately like the best ball of his career. It's actually frightening how good he is right now. Kyron gets home 25 for 114 and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 2 more goal line fades. That connection is unreal. Puka, 7 for 95 and a touchdown with 8 targets. He did leave this game because he like landed on the ball and it was kind of like a chest bruise. From everything I'm hearing, he probably could have returned to the game if they were not up by like 3 scores. They play at San Francisco this upcoming week. And I would be surprised if he missed time. So no overly concerning news about Puka on that one. Bills versus Chiefs. So we had the Bills win 28-21. They've just dominated Kansas City in the regular season. Unfortunately, it don't fucking matter for them. The Chiefs. Yeah, this was Mahomes' worst game probably in quite a while this year at least. Fantasy takeaways, we had Pacheco miss his first game. Kareem Hunt kind of dominated the backfield, at least from a touch standpoint, 11 for 49. Gets the goal line score here. Rashee Rice also kind of got a goal line score, so it could have been 2 touchdowns for Hunt, but they do a lot of fuckery like that on the goal line. Sometimes it's Worthy, sometimes it's Rashee Rice, but Rashee, 4 for 80, gets another touchdown through this one. Xavier Worthy is just kind of evaporated into a little bit of nothingness with Rashee Rice on the field, and that's kind of what I expected him to be when he entered the league eventually, more of just like a trick play guy, but yeah, not great for him with Rashee Rice returning. No other real takeaways here. The Chiefs have their bye in Week 10, and Andy Reid sounded like he expected Pacheco to be back after the bye. They play at Denver, so a really tough matchup, but worth holding on to Kareem Hunt through the bye in case Pacheco misses through there. On the flip side, Josh Allen has a ridiculous game, 273 and 1. Also scores 2 rushing touchdowns, so a huge fantasy day. James Cook, 114 on the ground. No real fantasy takeaways here. Kincaid got home, and you really can't trust any of the other pass catchers in Buffalo right now, especially not Keon Coleman. Shakir has his normal 7-catch, 45-yard day, so he has a high floor in PPR, but the ceiling has kind of evaporated there sometimes. So, yeah, I think that's it from this game. And then we have Sunday Night Football, Seahawks and the Commanders. And, I tweeted out in like week 2 or week 3 that Seattle looked like a legitimate contender to me. And not that I got a lot of shit, but there were definitely people pushing back on that. And I just feel like, I don't know, they're 4-0 on the road now. When their secondary is healthy, Devon Witherspoon, Julian Love's going to be out for a minute, but when they have most of their secondary back, they're just a very, very difficult team that you can't run against them. So when you need to pass it, like they know what you're doing, and it's tough to do that. And Sam Darnold's playing out of his mind. 330, 4 touchdowns, 8 for 129 for Jackson Smith and Jigba. The rookie, Torrey Horton, stepped up and scored 2 first-half touchdowns on just 4 targets, 448 and 2 touchdowns. Now, do I feel like this is going to be predictable going forward? Really depends on the problem with Torrey Horton is that as soon as Cooper Kupp steps back onto the field, he's just not a full-time guy. Like if we look at the snap counts here for Seattle, like he definitely should be picked up, definitely should be owned, especially if we're expecting Cooper Kupp to miss more time or even not because, we want to pick him up in the case that he does. But Torrey Horton, 83% of the routes in this one, great. But then when we start going back further, they had a bye, didn't they? Week 7, 53 when Cooper Kupp's up at 86. And that's kind of been the case all year. Like when we look at weeks 1 through 8, it's 86% for Cooper Kupp, 56% for Torrey Horton. I don't really think that Cooper Kupp should be taking over Horton's role, but I feel like this is also a team that appreciates like the veteran nature of Cooper Kupp. They like having him on the field. He opens up a lot of over-the-top plays for Jackson Smith and Jigba, unfortunately. But if Kupp misses time, I think Horton could be used as a flex play for sure, especially in matchups that are good. They get Arizona at home next week, which is a good one. Now, I don't know that there's a team that's in more shambles than Washington. Jaden Daniels went down with a dislocated elbow. There appears to be some optimism that he could be back later this season. So I think if you have him, you could throw him on your IR. If you're in a 1-quarterback league, I probably wouldn't be too concerned about it. But obviously, Superflex, throw him in your IR and just see what happens. It hurts everybody, man. Like you could just see this was one of the concerns when like Jaden Daniels came out was that he was going to a Cliff Kingsbury offense. And Cliff kind of did this with Kyler, where he had such a good rookie year. And then year 2, everything kind of got exposed when the really short pass game wasn't working, like nothing was working. And without Terry McLaurin, like, they just don't have receivers that can get open. Debo is not like a separator of a receiver. And when Jaden Daniels drops back, like, nobody's getting separation. So he just feels like he's got to run for his life on every play. And it's honestly one of the most brutal watches of an offense that we've had all year. Like, they've been really, really bad all year. Cannot get like chunk plays going. Terry was such a big part of this offense, and we haven't got to see him play at all. So Jaden Daniels is going to be out for the foreseeable future. Marcus Mariota will get the starts going forward. The backfield, man, it felt so promising with Jacory, man. It felt like he was finally going to take over, and then just kind of fell flat on his face. Chris Rodriguez, 12 for 65 and a touchdown in this one. Jacory, 12 for 38. He's just been really inefficient on the ground. Not that it's necessarily his fault, I don't think, but doesn't fucking matter for us. You either get it done or you don't get it done. Check the snaps. Obviously, this was a blowout of game, so it's not like entirely predictive of what's going to happen, but 48% for Jacory, 36 for Chris Rodriguez, 25 for Jeremy McNichols. Yeah, at this point, again, you just can't really rely on any of them, especially when Jane Daniels isn't there opening up lanes for them. They play Detroit next week. I don't really want to play JCM in that one, but they do get Miami in week 11, so I would hold on for that matchup if you still have JCM, and they do get Dallas in week 17, so maybe they figure something out before then. And that was Sunday. Sunday Night Football. We have almost 1,200 people in here and only 89 thumbs up. So I would love it if the people that watch this every week, if you guys appreciate these videos, I'll obviously keep doing them. But the only way I know that you guys like them is I look at the thumbs up button. So if you've been watching this, if you're just on your phone, just scroll down a little bit, hit the thumbs up button. Again, would greatly appreciate that because this ratio is not working right now. Yeah, and like I said, fantasylife.com, you can get a subscription for 20% off if you use code BDGE when you check out there. It's awesome for draft season. It's awesome during the season. It's awesome for the rest of the season. They have a million other tools too in their subscriptions. I just use this for the recaps because it's perfect for y'all, and I know you guys appreciate that. But yeah, fantasylife.com, Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Use code BDGE when you check out, and that's that. And like I said before, waiver wire video is going to be coming out later tomorrow, most likely. I want to wait for the trade deadline to pass before I film anything. Put it on paper, put it on concrete, stick my fingers in the concrete and let it dry. And again, for you Germans out there, if you watch after the fact, we coming. We coming to Berlin Saturday, 5 p.m.-ish. We're going to do a fan meetup at the bar. We need 2 people to pull up. Just 2 German fans, please. Please, God. All right. I love y'all. Smoochies.